It's Guitar Day here at Homebuilt Workshop, and today we got something brand new and exciting. We're gonna build a bass. Check it out. What's going on, guys? Welcome to this episode of Homebuilt Workshop. My name's Jeff, and I am super excited to get started on our project today. This guitar is a commission for a friend of mine, and it is in the style of a Thunderbird bass, if you're familiar with that. Very similar to this shape. Got my templates all ready to go. I got a nice piece of mahogany right here. Let's start making some sawdust.
I'm going to use my circular saw to break this piece down. Right now it's too long to really safely work with.
We'll set this aside for another project later.
This piece of mahogany is a little bit wider than what I need, and rather just chalking that up to waste, I decided to rip a strip off of there that I might be able to use for a neck or something later on. Maybe even for this build, who knows? Now that it's a little bit narrower, I can cross-cut this piece to size. And now I'll fold the pieces in half, book match style, so that I can pass them on the jointer and make sure they're nice and square to each other. After a quick test fit, the joints are fitting well. This thing's ready for glue.
We'll just let that dry for a little bit.
Once the glue dried, I ran the piece through my drum sander to make sure it's nice and flat. Now I'm going to lay my template on the body blank and align it very carefully with the center line of the blank. Then I'll trace an oversized pencil line around my template. To create my oversized pencil line, I just took a short piece of dowel, drilled a hole in the center, and jammed a pencil in there. It works great.
Well, we got a rough body shape. Now we need a top. This book-matched quilted maple should look really awesome. This has been resawed on a large resaw machine, so we have some bandsaw marks in here. A couple passes through the drum sander to smooth that right up.
If it looks like I use the drum sander a lot in my workshop, it's because, well, I do. It is an invaluable tool for a lot of projects. I use it all of the time, especially with building guitars. With the two pieces for the top cut to length, I now need to joint the edges. Since this is figured wood, I don't want to just run this on the joiner. That can cause really bad tear out, especially in figured wood. So I'm going to use this kind of makeshift shooting board to sand the edges nice and square, making sure we get a really good glue joint. Now we'll just add our trusty wood glue and clamp this little piece up.
This is about what I would consider a perfect glue joint. They're squeezed out all the way down, but it's not globs and globs of glue. It's like little bubbles. It's gonna be really easy to clean up. Very important, at this step, do not wipe that glue. Let the glue just kind of bubble out there and dry where it is. If you wipe it off, you risk smearing some of the glue into the grain of the wood. We definitely don't want that.
Once those little bubbles of glue have dried, you can then take a scraper and just knock them off of there. A little piece of advice when you're scraping glue bubbles like this, wear safety glasses. There's a chance that those little bubbles could fly up and hit you in the eye. Ask me how I know that. A little more oversized tracing, and I can cut the waste material away at the bandsaw.
Now I'm just going to take a few minutes and make sure I very carefully line up the center line of the top with the center line of the mahogany body. I'm going to line it up at the front and back, make sure everything's perfect, and get it clamped in place.
Now, using one of my templates as a guide, I'm going to mark out the rough locations of all the cavities. This will help me determine where to drill some small pilot holes to help hold the top in place when we glue it up.
Now we'll just take some regular old toothpicks and we'll cut the tip off. And now we've got some nice wooden dowels that we'll insert in those holes when we clamp the top in place. Keep everything nice in alignment. We don't have to worry about it shifting around. Sometimes when you clamp the top on with the glue acts like a lubricant and it'll let the top slide around. And by having some pins there, it'll keep everything nice in alignment. And who knew that a 5/64 drill bit was about the same size as toothpicks? At least these particular toothpicks. There's our top, pinned in place with simple toothpicks, cheap and very effective. Another advantage of using the toothpicks is since this is located in the neck pocket and in one of the pickup cavities, it's going to all get routed away. It's wood, so it's just going to disintegrate. And I only went just a little bit into the body, so the hole that I drilled is going to get routed away anyway. We're going to route deeper than the hole is drilled, so it's going to be seamless. And with that, I think we're ready to gather the clamps, and I mean all the clamps. Get this top glued on.
Don't forget to add the toothpick dowels.
We're lined up on our pin. I use a clamping caul that's a duplicate of my template, except this one's made out of 3/4 inch MDF. And now we just add all the clamps. All right, I think that is all the clamps. I'm gonna have to get a couple more. I can tell you one thing, this step is still kind of stressful to me because I'm always worried about the alignment and getting enough glue and enough clamps in the right spot. But one thing that made a huge difference was making this little riser that I'm working on. It keeps the body up off the top of the table and really lets me quickly get in there with a clamp. It's really easy to work around and it's made a huge difference in this whole process. So if you're looking for ways to maybe take some of the stress out of your glue ups like this, try a riser. It really helped. We'll just let this dry overnight.
Now it's time to attach our template again using some more double-sided tape. I'm starting to get low on this tape. It's going to be time to restock here pretty soon. I'm also going to use one of these mahogany offcuts so I can resaw it to make a control cavity cover. I'll trim the offcut down to remove some of the waste and then resaw a slice that's just over 1/4 inch thick. And now I'll go back around the body blank and cut as close as I can to the template to remove as much waste material as possible. Look at all that dust building up on the bandsaw. I gotta do something about the dust collection on this thing. And now it's time to fire up the router with a template bit and make a whole lot of sawdust. I'm making most of the passes with my template and the bearing on the top, but there are a couple of areas where I really want to avoid chip out, so for those spots, I'm gonna flip the piece over, readjust my router bit, and finish making the cuts.
Before I remove the template, while I still have everything in alignment, I'm going to take the template for the control cavity, place it in there. That's going to locate it exactly where it's going to be, and I can drill the pilot holes for the controls while everything's already located.
Now I'll just use a couple of scrapers and pry the template loose.
There goes that.
I may have used just a little too much tape. I'm always concerned that it's somehow gonna slip, so in order to avoid that, I use way too much tape, I think.
Now before I attach the next set of templates and route the pickup cavities, neck pocket, control cavities, all of those other cavities that we need to route, this body's still a little bit thick, so I'm gonna run this through the drum sander a few more times, remove some of that thickness. You guys don't need to see that. You've seen me run things through the drum sander already on this project, so it's gonna be exactly the same. I'm gonna see you in just a second with our next templates.
Our next routing task is gonna be to route the neck pocket and pickup cavities. I'm gonna attach the template for those using, again, probably too much tape.
Now that we have the template aligned exactly on the center line of the body, as well as the center line of the template, now we need to remove some of this waste material at the drill press using a Forstner bit.
This is a really important step for a couple of reasons. First, it makes the stock removal process just go a lot quicker, but more importantly, it's going to make your router bit not have to work as hard because it doesn't have to remove as much material. Now using a template bit in my router, I'll just finish routing out those cavities. I mentioned the dust collection on my bandsaw was a problem. This is also another operation that really makes quite the mess. I need to work on some sort of a mount or something that'll hold the shop vac hose right near the router. It'd be a lot easier than trying to wrestle with it while you're trying to route at the same time. But I think that's another project for another day.
So far so good. Now we'll just flip this thing over, reattach our template, and route the control cavity.
Since my router bit is not long enough to reach all the way down into the cavity, I need to remove the template about halfway through and finish routing without the template. Now I've attached one last template. This time it's to route the recess for the control cavity cover.
Now we just need to make a control cavity cover to fit that recess. Let's check the fit. Nice. Now I think all I really need to do is go back and enlarge these pilot holes to fit the control pots. And here's our basic body, really ready to move on to the next step. Now, is this thing ready to go for finish? Absolutely not. We still have a lot of work ahead of us. We got to do a ton of sanding. We've got to grain fill the mahogany. We got to put some color on the top. We've got some final holes to drill for the jack as well as the strap buttons. And also we need some sort of mounting holes for the neck. But we don't have a neck yet. So that's gonna be part 2 of this series. We're gonna build the neck for this guy. I'm gonna be doing a series of videos on this particular build, so make sure if you wanna see those that you hit the subscribe button and enable notifications so that you don't miss it when an episode comes out. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Stick around because this is gonna be fun. Next up, we're gonna build a neck. That's part 2. Thanks a lot for watching. Here we go. Don't screw this up, dude.
Do you think it's a problem if your shop vac sounds like a dying duck when you try to turn it on?
Yeah, do you see that? Almost got taken out by a clamp.